What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin, coming with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the box office, and this weekend, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, as I like to say, is running away with it. There really is just no competition for it, as you see. Domestically, it made $62.2 million. Second place this weekend would be Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, which is actually, it's surprising and not surprising because this is a Grinch movie that I don't think anyone asked for. No one really wanted it, and yet somehow we got it anyway. It's still doing well. It's still in its second weekend, only had a 43.5% drop, which is actually really good. Usually you see movies like this that you think would probably have a major drop, have something in the 60s or 70s, but only 43.5. That's pretty great. Bohemian Rhapsody continues to do extremely well. 15.7 million, coming in at third place for the weekend, and that means it's coming in over movies that opened this weekend, which is absolutely insane. One of those movies is one we're going to talk about, which is Widows, which came in with $12.3 million, and there are some thoughts as to why I think that film isn't doing as well and why it might not do well overall. Instant Family did respectable with 14.7 million. I don't think anyone really expected that to do amazing. It was made for a budget around $48 million, so it'll probably make its money back over the course of its theatrical run, and if not then probably over the course of it being sold on DVD and Blu-ray. The big one, though, is the Nutcracker, coming in at number 6, so somehow it's still in the top 10, but 4.6 million, another 53.6% drop, so it continues to drop, dropped out of 1,000. In its third week, it has now dropped out of over 1,000 theaters because it's just not selling. This, again, was made for $120 million, and it is just not looking good for it. But let's actually go movie by movie. So Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. This is a movie that I plan to see at some point because obviously I have been a big fan of the Harry Potter universe, at least from the film's perspective. My wife is a very big fan of the books, so much more a fan of the books than of the movies, but she still likes them nonetheless. This thing was made for $200 million, and let me just put things into perspective. This film, which is Fantastic Beasts, which is very heavy CGI, which is a Harry Potter movie, which is the second in what's, I guess, assumed to be a new trilogy, the budget was $200 million. Now, if this is $200 million, that tells you a lot about what Star Wars Episode 9 is probably end up costing. That means that movie is likely to cost closer to $250 million, maybe even $300 million before you actually put in marketing, which means that Episode 9 is going to cost a crap ton of money, which means it needs to make a crap ton of money, as much as, which historically doesn't seem likely, as much as at the very least Last Jedi, in order to break even at the box office. But anyway, Fantastic Beasts is actually off to a very good start. Worldwide opening weekend, $253 million. It is already on pace to beat out Solo: A Star Wars Story next week, which once again is a sign that you can have a movie that has terrible reviews, because I'll go to the Rotten Tomatoes for this after, a little bit later. This movie is not getting good reviews from critics. I think it's around 40-50%, and audiences it's around 70-75%, which is not great either. But still, it is bringing in money because it's a story that people actually would want to go out and see. It's a story that actually has characters and has backstories and has, concepts that people might actually be interested in. Unlike the current state of Star Wars, which is like, oh, whatever, we'll just throw out something, hope that it sticks. We'll throw Star Wars on it and everything will be fine. Eventually, this is going to get to them because they're throwing Fantastic Beasts on it, saying, oh, well, we can take the Harry Potter name to the bank. But almost every review that you read for this from critics and audiences are saying, yeah, this movie is unnecessary, it's bland, and it's totally a cash grab. And that is what Star Wars is slowly becoming. And that's not a good thing, because when a movie starts to be seen, when a movie gets put into that cash grab category and fans and audiences catch on, it usually results in the end of a series. Great example would be Divergent. It was very clear that they were not putting in their best effort to make good movies, to make good adaptations. They never actually finished it all together. That might happen to Star Wars, because if they continue to just bank on the good graces of audiences, the bank on the good graces of the fans, it's not going to be good for them. The same thing with this. Yes, it's doing well, but that's because it's the second Fantastic Beasts film. It's going to do very well because of that fact, because it does have an all-star cast. My thoughts about Johnny Depp in this are like, but the main reason being that I was very excited for Colin Farrell to be to be revealed as the villain at the very end of the first Fantastic Beast, and when all of a sudden he transforms into Johnny Depp, I literally facepalmed because I was like, no! Oh my God, we had Colin Farrell, now we have Johnny Depp. And again, I like Johnny Depp. I like a lot of his work. I love his work in the first Pirates, but I just feel like he's become just this caricature of who he used to be. But anyway, overall, $253 million, doing extremely well overseas in that foreign market. Again, 75.4 percent of the box office take. I talk about those percentages all the time because it is important. When you have a big budget film like this, you need to do well in foreign markets. And that is something that Star Wars could learn a very big lesson from, because that is one of the markets that they struggle to do with. And if they don't do that, they're not going to make their money back then. Though, had they made $253 million, by the end of its run, it's probably going to be closer to 500, 600, 700, maybe even $800 million total. I mean, to be honest, this film I don't think it's going to reach $1 billion, but it could definitely still get to around the $750 million range, which means it's going to make its money back and also make a profit. Because at this point, remember, it costs total about $300 million to make the movie when you take into account marketing. It only receives 60% of the total box office take. So let's see, $300 million times 2 is $600 million. So you need to have around $600 million, maybe a little bit more than $600 million just to be able to break even. So just a little bit of quick math for you. That's what that needs to make. Just imagine what Star Wars Episode 9 is going to need to make. The Grinch, also still doing very well, was made for a production budget of $75 million, which means that the marketing is not nearly as high, but still is up to $151 million after 2 weeks. This film, it's breaking even, going to make money. It's a film that no one really wanted. It's a film that came out at the wrong time of the year. It's going to cap out probably around $250 million, more closer to $250 million, because it is going to stay around for Christmas because of the fact that we're about to get into December, and this movie I feel like just came out way too soon. I think if they held on to this movie to come out in December, I think it would have brought in even more money. But I think eventually it's going to do its course. It's going to slowly lose interest, and all the families that were interested in seeing it are going to have already seen it. And once again, with this, when you see the domestic foreign totals, they're only going to be able to make so much here domestically. If they're not doing any business overseas, that's going to make a cap for what this movie can make. Bohemian Rhapsody, on the other hand, is a movie that is just, it's great. I mean, this to me is a excellent showing for this. It's really sad that, of course, we had the scary, gay, lesbian, no. It's like, okay, no. As a movie, it's great. And the best part of it, as I've mentioned before, is the fact that they don't really spend the entire time focusing on the fact that he was gay, or even actually by the very fact that he was bisexual, by the fact that he was in love with a woman for the entirety, for the entirety of his life. It was a very complex part of his life, and they focused on that, and also so many more things. And critics just tore it apart for the primary reason that they didn't focus solely on that, because they didn't play, the people that made Bohemian Rhapsody did not play the identity politics game, which is great, and that's why this movie is doing so well, because it's just a fun time. If you want to go to the theater, have a fun time, be able to rock out to some music, and hear a very interesting story, maybe a side of the story that you've never heard before, I recommend this movie very, very highly. $384 million, 66% of the foreign market. This film is doing very well. This film is definitely going to make more than Solo Star Wars Story, seeing that it's already at $384 million. This film is probably looking to cap out around $450, maybe even $500 million by the end of its run. Now we get into some of the movies that aren't doing nearly as well. So this is Widows. Widows is the new Steve McQueen film, and this is the one where all of the men in their lives get killed, and so therefore the widows, the women left behind, are going to pull themselves up and do this last heist. Now, could this film be good? I think it has potential. Viola Davis, anytime that Viola Davis is attached to a project, I'm excited, because she is a fantastic actress. She's probably one of my favorite working actresses in Hollywood right now, and that goes all the way back to her supporting role in Doubt. I remember seeing that movie, seeing her supporting role, and immediately saying to myself, this woman deserves the Oscar, because that is the definition of supporting role. She was in the movie for maybe 10 minutes, and she has this 10-minute scene where she is just emptying herself to this nun in that particular movie, and this woman knows how to act. She is fantastic. So it could be good. There is potential. You do have Michelle Rodriguez in there, Colin Farrell, Liam Neeson, Robert Duvall. There are, John Bernthal. There are some pretty good names in there, but is it too much focus on identity politics? Is it too much focus on the female aspect of it? Who knows? All I do know is that it was made for a production budget of around $42 million, which means it cost probably $60, $70 million to make, and it's only made about $19 million. This is a film that is not going to play well or as well overseas, once again, because we have a story that is more focused and more meant for American audiences. And that is something that is very, very, it's a dangerous game to play, because if you don't try and appeal to those foreign audiences, one, you limit how much money you can make, but also, secondly, you also put yourself in a position where you're going to actually eventually tap out the American audiences if you keep making the same types of movies. This is another bank heist type film, so who knows? It could be good. Because of the cast, I'll probably end up seeing it. But still, I think that it's not looking too good for Widows. And then lastly, Nutcracker. This is probably going to be one of the worst Disney outings of all time. This has been out now since November 2nd, so maybe about 3 weeks, and it's only made $116 million. The foreign domestic rift is good, but they're not making nearly as much in either the domestic or foreign markets. And this is once again another film that should have probably been released in December, but I think they realized, oh, this film is not very good, is not very interesting, and so therefore we're gonna hold back on it. Even though they spent $120 million, which means overall it costs around $180 million, they're only at 116, and it's slowing down. It is dropping 50-60% every week since its release, which shows that this film is just bleeding money, and by the end of its run, it's going to be a flop. And you know what? The fact that Keira Knightley is starring in this film after all the nonsense that she had to say about Disney princesses, all I can say is, you know what? You reap what you sow. But anyway, getting back to Fantastic Beasts, I do want to make this point. And I always do these things live. You see, look at that. Look at that, rote learning. What is rote learning? Who knows? Who knows what rote learning is? But let's actually get to Fantastic Beasts. It's even worse than I thought. 40% of critics like this movie. 40%. Let's see what the critics' consensus is, because it's always fair, right? The Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald has glimmers of the magic familiar to Harry Potter fans, but the story's spell isn't as strong as early installments. So this is another example. One other movie earlier this year that actually had the same kind of ranking, not just with critics, but also with audiences, was Jurassic World 2, where even the director came out and admitted saying, you know what? I made a mistake. This is not very good. I own that, and I think the fans have a right to speak out. This one, not nearly as low from the audiences, but still 71% of audiences liking this film. That's not a very strong score for what should be a great movie. So what does this tell us? This tells us something very important, which is that bad movies can indeed make money when they have enough to be able to bring audiences in, when they have enough to bring, to have interest held by audiences around the world. The problem with Star Wars right now, and again, I like to tie this in because I do think it's important since Episode 9 is still within the news, is the fact that Episode 9 has isolated its audience. They have not taken, the people who have made the film have not taken responsibility. They've said, too much too fast. Oh, yeah, it's probably something to do with fatigue. They haven't actually addressed or admitted the actual problems that are going on right now. And guess what? That's what's going to lead to them not only having very low audience scores, but also, too, very low box office scores. But if even a film like this can make $220+ million in its opening weekend, I'm going to expect that, if not more, if Episode 9 hopes to be successful. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen Fantastic Beasts? Have you seen Dr. Seuss, The Grinch, which again is a Grinch movie that I don't think anyone ever really even asked for or we really needed. Bohemian Rhapsody, still great. Widows, I kind of want to see it. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Nutcracker, don't plan on seeing that movie at all. Wasn't interested before, even less interested with Keira Knightley being attached. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts on this weekend. Obviously we've got Thanksgiving coming up, so we have new movies coming out. We got Creed 2, which I'm very excited for, and we're going to see some box office changeovers, but that's what's going to lead to a lot of these films that haven't been performing as well are going to go even further down because there are some big hitters, heavy hitters that are going to start to come out in this late November, early December, going all the way through December time period within the film industry. But anyway, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It means a lot to us. You are all amazing people. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.